Greetings all, and so we're going to take a look with a little news of the day video today. And Josh Anderson, to start off, unlikely to play against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So he's been hurt, and apparently that is still an issue for him to the stage where they don't think he's going to play against Toronto in the play-in. It's unlikely he'd show up during the playoffs either. So if you're a Columbus fan, that's one less player in the lineup, but most of the guys are going to be healthy. Now, one that I agree with on this board, and I'm wearing a Hawks jersey for that reason. Patrick Kane denies that there's going to be an asterisk for whoever wins the Stanley Cup this year. Should we go through, have a safe tournament, and play it? The asterisk thing I kind of understand, but at the same time, you're going to go through a tournament where you might have to go through 5 rounds instead of 4 to win a Stanley Cup. You might need to win 19 games instead of 16 to win a Stanley Cup, depending on who wins that. And you're going to be playing in a central location, and you're probably going to have a pretty hectic schedule. The shorter that these playoffs take, the safer they're going to be for, health reasons, obviously. And then the less time they have to worry about this bubble, they're going to have the players in, and they can start working on next season and on, getting all the off-season stuff in. The draft, the free agency, and all that wonderful stuff, right? So I agree with Kane on this. It's still, we're going to have healthy teams. Everybody should be there, minus a few. And yeah, just drop the puck and get her going. So we will see. Now, I also wanted to throw in here, I saw an article on Sean Couturier today. I thought about doing a Couturier video, but I thought, nah, I'll wait. I don't want to necessarily jinx the guy by doing a video on how great he is as a defensive forward and then see him not win the Selke. But he would get my vote if I had one. I don't have a vote. But if I did, I would vote for him for the Selke, and I would probably vote for Carlson for Norris, and I would lean towards Hughes for the Calder. It's hard though because Makar was so good this year, but Couturier for me gets the Selke vote, and that's even as a Bruins fan who I love Bergeron. Bergeron's fantastic, but I would have honestly given that to Couturier if I had a say in it. Now, the Canadian government announcement kind of turns out to be odd. So, Prime Minister Trudeau says the Canadian government's open to hub cities of the NHL and athletes of that, and no official announcement about how that's going to work or the quarantining. So I don't know what's going on here, but there hasn't been an official announcement. And he's like, yeah, well, it'll be up to local health officials. So does that mean he's accepting the proposals that have been sent by Alberta, BC, and Ontario through for the bids for Toronto, Edmonton, and Vancouver? And he's saying, yeah, no, we'll waive the 14 days in this instance. I don't know. We'll see. And apparently the decision's next week. And Chicago's starting to emerge as a dark horse as well. Apparently Chicago's making a nice, strong push. There's only going to be 2. Vegas is rumored to, of course, be one of the 2. If they're looking east, then Toronto, Columbus, and Pittsburgh would be one of them. But maybe Chicago gets the bid. Maybe that happens. I don't know. It seems to change day by day. And so I'm looking forward to that decision next week so we can finally have that done and put away. Now, the other piece of news from today is that Buffalo fired Botterill, but that's not all they did. So assistant GMs are out. Apparently the scouting department might be getting gutted. Like they're gutting everything. So they want a greater say. And depending on which rumor turns out to be true, either they were upset that they wanted to streamline things, as Kim Pagula said, where they're streamlining, meaning cost cutting, and Botterill was opposed to cost cutting. Or they want a greater say over just how the team is run in general. And Botterill's like, no, I want some autonomy here. So, Kevin Adams, you've got your work cut out for you. And this is not something that I think that Buffalo fans are going to be overly happy about, hearing that the owners are going to have greater say in how things are run in-house and greater say in how the general manager does things. So, if you're not a big fan of the Pagulas right now, this news likely won't make you feel better about it. We'll see what happens there, and whether or not we do see certain jobs not being replaced, like the president of the team. There's not going to be one apparently, and yeah, so we'll see how things go from here for Buffalo. Oh, gifts keeps on giving today, I tell you. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the scheduling thing. So you're going to have your East, you're going to have your West, and it's highly likely we'd have a game at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and 4 p.m. Eastern, like Eastern, and then at Western as well. Meaning that if you're on the West Coast, your first game is going to start at 7 a.m., and your last game will start at 4 p.m. So it's potentially 12 hours every day of hockey for the play-in round and for the first round of the playoffs. Now, where things get tricky is if they do decide to just play in the NHL buildings and have 3 games a day in each building, that's 6 games a day. You're going to have teams with 2 days off. You're going to have times where it's 1 day off. The first 2 rounds could take a while. Now, once you get into the final 8, then you can just have 2 games a day in each location. Now, I would think that the 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. games would probably be your round robin games for that play-in, and then the playoff game would be at 4. For scheduling reasons for television, you don't want to have a playoff game at 10 a.m. that goes into, say, double, triple overtime and ends up pushing back your other 2 start times. And then that way your double, triple overtime could just be this one. The problem with that, of course, is the idea of having 2 round robin games and 1 playoff game means that there's playoff teams sitting and waiting. So odds are it's going to be 1, 2, like 1 round robin a day and 2 playoff games a day. But this could be some very, very long days for hockey fans. And it does make me somewhat nervous in that, so if it's 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and 4 p.m., that means that you'd have out west, so it'd be 10 a.m. Out here Pacific time, and then 1 p.m. Pacific time, and 4 p.m. Pacific. So you're going to have 1 game starting at 7 a.m. my time, which is 10 a.m. Eastern, and then these 2 games would start at the same time, in theory. These 2 games would start at the same time, in theory, and then you have the 1 late game. So this is probably how they're going to run it, and it is going to feel kind of like March Madness, but personally, I'm wondering just how long some of these days could get. Because again, for those first 2 rounds, whether you consider it a playoff round, the play-in or not, it is a round of play, and there's going to be the round robin as well. It'll be very interesting to see how they do this. I'm curious to see how the scheduling is going to work. I would assume next week, when they make the Hub City decision, they have to announce the scheduling as well. Because that's something that teams and like the owners and the players should be negotiating at the same time. Okay, we're going to play here and here's when. And not only that, but then it gives the networks a better idea of how it's going to work. And I'm guessing the networks have some say in this as well. It could be some long days. So, I mean, it's possible as well that you start at 1 a.m. Eastern, which would be 4 p.m. You would start at 1 p.m., which would be 10 a.m. out here, Pacific, and then you could make all these 3 hours later, but then you'd have one in the West starting at 7 p.m., going till who knows how late. And again, for scheduling reasons, it'll be interesting to see. Now, I have the 10 a.m. Eastern up there because Elliot Friedman said that might very well be where they end up with it. But let me know what you guys think about the scheduling. How would you work the scheduling for the play-in round and for the first round of the playoffs? If they're going to be played in 2 buildings and it's going to be triple header, what do you think the best start time is? Because again, your standard would be, so I'll put this over here because people are going to be like, well, wait, why would they do that? Your standard would be 1 p.m. Eastern, which is when you normally have your matinee games, 4 p.m., and then 7 p.m. So that'd be 4 o'clock Eastern, or 4 o'clock Pacific, I should say, 7 o'clock Eastern. And then in the West, our first game would start at 1 p.m. our time, and then 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. And again, the trick is going to be, once you get into that first round of the playoffs, these games could get bumped back by overtimes. And that could be something, because again, I don't know if they're going to just have like just an ice cleaning in between games. Like, do you just bring out the Zamboni and do it like in between periods? How chewed up could the ice be by that last game? And, there's a lot of questions to be answered here, and I'd be interested to know your thoughts, because when we heard about the Hub City idea, I had figured anyways, that they would play in more than one arena, and we could avoid chewed up ice and some of the conditions we might be looking at. But everybody will play in the same conditions, and then it's a matter of which series works best where. So I would think that the Toronto Maple Leafs series would have to be on as the last series in the East, so you're going to get your maximum viewership. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.